All you dirty turds out there listening to this podcast, you are so beautiful. You are beautiful. Welcome to Respawn Aim Fire, the kick-ass irreverent gaming podcast brought to you by Affable Idiots. I'm one of your hosts. Chad hates all spiders except for maybe the one in Harry Potter whose name I can't remember, but definitely Shabbat Shalom in Lord of the Rings. Hate that spider. We have with us here our co-host, Alex. Tell me about the spiders you like. Cozina, how are you, Alex?
It's really weird to be positioned inside the red border because usually this is the border that Adam is a part of. Adam is usually very good at not missing these episodes of the show. As for spiders, I gotta be honest, I don't particularly care for any of them. They can all die.
I almost forgot to interrupt you with a nice soda crack in the middle of your talking.
You almost forgot because he's in a different box.
It's
actually
right?
Activated by the box.
That's
how you know.
Adam is, yes, in fact, gone today. He got the PAX pox and is dead. I'm just kidding. He did go to PAX, but he just got back today, so he's taken the night off. But we made sure the tradition lives on and that we do, in fact, still open cans of soda while Cozy introduces himself. That other person that you heard talking on that new crisp camera that he's got, Joel, you look like you like spiders, Campos.
Dude, I fucking hate spiders. I don't hate, I'm not afraid of them. But I'm not trying to be friends with them. You know what I mean? I'm not having a pet spider or anything like that. I'm also not trying to save them, right? If I see a spider in my house, you better believe I'm smashing that fucking thing. I'm not one of those people that's going to catch it in a cup, tiptoe over to my door, hope I don't drop it and spill it out and lose it. No, I'm not one of those people. I'm smashing that bitch. I'm grabbing the closest shoe or flat object to me. Is that one of those zzz?
Look what I got. Yeah, it's a little tennis racket that zaps them. I got this week because I found 2 spiders in the last 3 days, and I'm like, this is a 300% increase on the number of bugs that I ever see here in California.
But the thing I hate about this,
no, I've not zapped myself. Although they did say that danger.
Wait, hold on. Can I guess what you hate about it?
Yeah.
Is it not USB-C powered?
Oh, it is. I would not have bought it if it was not. I literally typed USB-C into the search field. Yeah.
I thought that would have been it. I thought maybe that technology has not reached bug zappers yet. I could see that being the case.
There are a couple of cool things about this. This is the Bug Zapper podcast now. It does rotate. There we go. Mm-hmm. So you can actually press it against the wall or the ceiling and zap something on the ceiling. It also has a mode where you turn it on, and I don't know if this shows up on camera, but there's a little blue UV light on it, and that you basically just leave it there in a dock all night, and if they're mosquitoes or little gnats or something like that, then they fly into it, and then it just basically you end up with a pile of dead bugs under it by the time you wake up in the morning.
I was going to say, it's a trap.
The thing I hate...
It understands that a lot of the insects in the animal kingdom are fans of the Paragon route in the Mass Effect games, and so they see the blueness of the tennis racket and we're like, oh great, a Paragon choice, gotta make my Paragon choices. And then they get fucking zapped.
Fucking zap them. Thing I hate though is that you can smell the bugs burning. And it's so gross to think about the fact that you are inhaling
sweet,
fried bug
smell.
Guts right now. Yeah.
Oh man.
But it's so satisfying to I'm sure you've all had the Bryan Cranston The Fly episode where there's just a fly in your apartment somewhere and I can't fucking get it. And it's been driving me crazy for a day or two to actually swat at this thing, watch it get stuck in there and just sizzle. So satisfying.
Yeah.
For a brief second, I thought, I was like, wait a minute. Did they do a remake of The Fly, the Jeff Goldblum movie with Mr. Breaking Bad? I was like, wait a minute. When did that come out? And I was like, oh, no. You mean the episode of Breaking Bad with Ye Olde Fly.
The worst episode of Breaking Bad.
I don't know if it was the worst one. It was a unique one, though.
I think that was the worst one. And that's one of those episodes of a show where it's either loved or hated. There's no in between. Guitar Tiro in the Twitch chat says you have to zap yourself now, Chad.
Do it, Chad.
You've been afraid. I know you've been dreading this. It's gonna happen one way or another. You might as well just get it out of the way.
We'll see how we are at the end of the episode. We might end it with that. You have to stick around the whole time to find out, though, because This is Respawn Aim Fire. We are here on twitch.tv/affability. It's on Monday evenings around 8:30 Eastern Time-ish, which is like a minute from now, which is great. If you don't catch us live, and who knows if I actually did zap myself live and then we edited it out for the VOD, and you're listening to an edited version on Wednesday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, you'll never know. So maybe catch us live, twitch.tv/affableidiots. We got a couple of housekeeping things before we talk about our main quest tonight. The first is we've got a barf coming up. Barf coming up for the end of May is Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight. For the absolutely coming this year Silksong sequel, we've decided we are going to play Hollow Knight. Well, you all decided over at patreon.com/respawningfire that we are playing Hollow Knight in the month of May. Unanimously, you decided that.
Unanimously. Everyone.
I am pumped to play it because it has been since it came out that I played it. 2019, I think. And I'm ready to play it with some trophies this time instead of being on stupid Switch. So we're playing that. We also have last month's episode for Barf, Backlog Accomplishment with Respawn and Friends. The Outer Worlds is live on YouTube. There is a moment in that where Cozy says something that made me almost choke on whatever I was eating at the moment while I listened to it in absentia, although my thoughts are still heard on the show. What is that moment? You're going to have to go find out.
Well,
so go check out the Outer Worlds review.
There's no way that they would know what that moment is because you're not on the episode.
Well, they'll hear it and they'll be like, oh, that's the one. That's obviously the thing that made Chad almost
Joel,
choke
do you know
on
what
whatever he was
moment
eating.
it is? Was he telling you off screen?
I do know because he texted it to me.
Oh.
Yeah, a little secret Discord.
Interesting.
Discord.
I guess.
Actually, I did text it to you as well, Cozy, and you did react with a. Hold on, let me see which reaction you did. You did the gasp emoji.
The gasp emoji.
You did.
There's a lot of text. Oh no, wait. Hold on a second. Hold on a sec. Something at. All right, hold on. I'm looking at the video right now. Universe, bye. I have some good news.
You're spoiling the moment. We can hear it in your mic.
Yeah, you're spoiling it.
I listened to it. I was crap. My phone's about to go and leave this desk in this dimension as it gets smashed to bits. I don't really know. I don't really know what that was. Anyways,
it was a pancake. I was eating a pancake. So go imagine me choking on a pancake at some point during that episode. And then also, for Patreon subscribers, you currently have early access to Rafter Dark, Episode 4. What is Rafter Dark? Well, it's one of many different types of shows that we do during... look at Gwen over there. Many different types of shows that we do once per month for early access for our Patreon subscribers over on patreon.com/respawningfire. Rafter Dark happens to be one that we don't talk about video games on. It's anything but video games. And I believe, I have not heard it yet, because again, I was in absentia last week. I believe this one is all about Cozy's trip to Japan. Yes?
It is, but part of the way through the episode, both Joel and Adam got really obsessed with trying to find if they could see any famous video game developers in my photos. They were convinced on a few occasions that Todd Howard might have photobombed my Japan vacation. So go and watch the video version of that episode and see if you can spot Todd Howard, Hideo Kojima, all the greats.
I have a few comments. One of them being I stepped away for like 20 or 30 minutes through that because I got a very important phone call based on some stuff we were talking about before the show started related to that. And the second thing being is you will never guess one of the places Cozy decided to eat. You will never guess it, and I guarantee that. You got to go watch.
Oh, I can't wait. And then speaking of Cozy has a fun little announcement is in the notes here. Cozy,
yes.
What's your fun little announcement?
So if you're watching this after the fact as a VOD on YouTube or on podcast services, it will be too late to watch this live. But tomorrow on Tuesday, May the 13th, I'm going to be joining Mr. Hawks and Foxy Steve over on twitch.tv/Mr. Hawks Mr. Hawks 182. I'm tripping all over this. I'm getting a little too excited, a little bit too fast. Twitch.tv/Mr. Hawks. It's Mr. Hawks. But you think that the underscore would come after the Hawks and before the number. Mr. Hawks. This is the last time I'll say it. To record an episode of the Story Motors podcast. I was on the podcast a little while back, and this will be my second appearance on the show. So go check it out.
Is Mr. Hawks the husband of Mrs. Hawktua?
I do not know. I'll have to ask him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. All right, so all of that out of the way, let's jump into our main quest tonight. The end of the world is on August 26th, which is the day that Gears of War comes to PS5. This is straight from Jordan Midler at VGC. Gears of War Reloaded is a modernized version of the original Gears of War game and features all the improvements of Gears of War Ultimate Edition, plus some modern performance boosts. Reloaded includes support for 4K and 120 frames per second support in multiplayer. Gears of War Reloaded will be released on August 26th, costing $39.99 on all platforms. It will also be available on Game Pass day one and features crossplay. Xbox owners who own the digital version of Gears of War Ultimate Edition receive a free upgrade to Gears of War Reloaded. It's happening, boys. Xbox is coming to PlayStation in like a meaningful way. Not like a Sea of Thieves way, but in like, this is one of their main IP way. What are your reactions?
My initial reaction is, how dare you throw shade at Sea of Thieves? Because that game is fucking awesome. Like, that's really messed up that you would do that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know why, like, people were surprised that this is happening. I think the more surprising thing to me is that it's just the first game.
Yeah.
I thought that they would have done like the rumored, and I say rumored just because it's just like what fans have wanted, was like a Marcus Phoenix collection, very much like the Master Chief collection. I would have assumed that if they were bringing it to PS5, they would have made the Marcus Phoenix collection or whatever they wanted to call it, because obviously Marcus Phoenix is not in the newer games, so maybe they don't want to call it that. Maybe it's just the Gears of War collection, whatever. But yeah, I would have assumed that it would have been that, them announcing that's a thing, and then also saying, yeah, and it's coming to PS5 and Xbox on August 26th. It being just a Gears of War Reloaded, which is just another remaster of Gears of War 1, is really weird, I think. I think that's a weirder thing.
That's the one thing that's kind of disappointing about this for me is like, okay, so we're getting a remastered version of Gears of War 1, but will we get the same treatment for 2, 3, and all the others? Or will it just be a more like bog standard kind of upscaling in the vein of what is currently available on Xbox consoles, which I'm totally fine with, but then we end up with the inconsistency of Gears of War 1 being, you know, very well polished and incredibly modern feeling and looking, and its sequels not being as much, despite them coming out later on and being technically more polished from a design standpoint. That stuff really kind of bugs me. But other than that, I mean, I'm happy that it's finally here on PlayStation. I will definitely be checking out its trophy list to see what kind of sweet trophies I can get in this thing, but I'm not the kind of person. There used to be a point in time where I would try to get the platinum in every single game that came along, and I have gotten to the point where I've had to kind of choose my battles a little bit more selectively. If this game is like, you got to play a ton of multiplayer stuff if you want to get the platinum trophy, I'm probably not going to go through with the platinum. But if it's just the campaign stuff, I might consider it, because the original Gears of War campaign is like very short, shockingly so by the standards of modern day single player campaigns. So we will see.
Remind me, Joel, did 2 or 3 ever get an actual like original remaster?
No.
Or was it just one?
No. 1 is the only one that has gotten a remaster at all. 2 and 3 just did the thing where it's like, oh, it's enhanced with Xbox One X at the time. But yeah, nothing else did. For reference, Cozy, the Gears of War Ultimate Edition, which was the old remaster of Gears of War 1, it did have multiplayer achievements. I'm double checking that right now, but I'm like 90% sure it did. Yeah, it had multiplayer achievements, so I can almost guarantee you that this will. My main thought process being is A, like Gears 1 and the remaster had it, and B being they want PS5 players to play the multiplayer. Because that multiplayer, when it first came out on Xbox, was like awesome. Everybody loved it at the time. And now I got different opinions on it because like I'm an old man. My reflex skills are not as good as they once were. But yeah, I think that 100% they're going to put multiplayer achievements because they want people playing that multiplayer when it comes out.
And I respect that. I respect them being like, hey, we have a great product here and we want to funnel people into this multiplayer suite. It's just, for literal decades at this point, we have had the means to siphon off single player and multiplayer trophies into their own trophy lists and keeping the single player trophies exclusively the only trophies that you need to earn the platinum in the game in question. But most developers still don't do that, and I don't expect that this is going to break the trend.
I wouldn't bet on that either, Cozy, because I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but in the Xbox ecosystem, not only do they not siphon things off, but like your gamer score is like just this giant pool of meaningless digits. And so they have no concept of like, what does it mean to like complete a game, or like, what if I had two separate lists for something? They're like, no. Why do you want 7 of these points to go towards your 6,324,699? Like that's
so.
Why would you want that?
The thing with Xbox Gamer Score too is traditionally a game has 1,000 gamer score, and then they'll add gamer score later on if like DLC comes out. But sometimes it's just a lawless land. Like Gears of War Ultimate Edition, I'm looking right now, has 1,250 achievement score total you could get. And that's not because of DLC or anything, because no DLC came out, because it was a remaster. So yeah, it's weird. And I think like Starfield does weird stuff too, where it's like just like way too many. So that has 1,200 gamer score. Oh, no, okay, so the base game is 1,000, and then 1,200 with the DLC and stuff. But still, it's just like, why 1,250? Why not just make it 1,000 and change the quantities of points for certain things? It's weird.
Well, last question I have. Do we think that in this particular remastered version of Gears of War 1, they went in and updated the final boss battle against Ram? Because that was the one thing playing through the game where I'm like, oh, this is a bit of an old game. This particular final boss is not that great.
I don't remember what was not great about it. I mean, I feel like we just murdered him so fast.
I think it depends on the difficulty you play on. It is dumb because it's just a train fight, right? Where like you're running back and forth on the train, shooting him with the torque bow, more or less, is what I remember of it.
Yeah.
Getting the krill off of him so that you can actually damage him. I don't think they change anything, Cozy. I think this is straight up just a prettier version of the remaster game we already have, which was just a prettier version of the original game.
I would hesitate to even say
stuff.
Prettier. Like the line here says features all the improvements from Gears of War Ultimate Edition plus some modern performance boosts. So I think it's just Ultimate Edition with a framework for crossplay and 4K.
Yeah, because they added 4K assets to it, which they did not add for the Reloaded or the whatever the first remaster was called, Ultimate Edition.
Gotcha.
They did not have 4K assets fully. They just up-resed it to 4K. Let's play a fun little game real quick. I have 2 games here.
Ooh, okay.
Two games here.
Game on game show. Game.
I have 2 games here. I want you guys to guess how many achievement points both of these games have. All right? All right, Grant, given the knowledge I've given you where it's kind of a lawless land, Forza Horizon 5, how many achievement points do you think that has? Okay, we'll do 2 categories. Base game and then base game plus DLC.
I'm going to say
base game 1,000, and then base game with DLC, I'm going to say 3,000. I'm going to say that they want you to buy the Lego DLC, right? That was Forza Horizon? It was Lego?
I don't know about 5. I don't know. I get them all confused because there was a Hot Wheels one and all that.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to go more extreme, and I'm going to say base game 450, DLC 6,000.
Chad actually got both of them right. It's 1,000 for the base game and 3,000 with all the DLC. Next game I want to bring up is Halo Master Chief Collection.
Okay. Well,
and I think you guys both probably know something about.
I definitely researched this at some point because it was going to be featured in one of my game shows, but I don't think it ever made it to one of the shows proper. It's like, I'm going to, like 11,000. Am I in the ballpark? Chad, you can take your guess.
Okay, hold on. Let's go base game and then base game with everything.
Oh.
So base game, what is your guess, Cozy?
I mean, I feel like both are really, really large. Like I would say probably like base game is like 6,000, and then the whole thing is like 11,000.
Okay,
but maybe I'm completely off.
What's your guess?
I'm gonna go with the idea. I think I remember this being the case where each game had 1,000 gamer score in it, and I think it launched with 1, 2, 3, and ODST, and then Reach came a little bit later. So I'm gonna say 4,000 base game, 6,000 with everything.
All right, Chad wins this one too, but you're
Hell
wrong. So you're wrong on what games. First of all, you didn't even account for Halo 4. Halo 4 is
Halo
in there.
4 part of MCC? Okay.
Yeah, so it came out with 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then they added Reach and ODST later on.
Okay.
But yeah, the base game has 4,000 gamer score, and with everything, it has 7,000 gamer score.
Oh, shit.
So you were off by 1,000 there, but still, that's insane. Like, that's so many achievements. It's crazy.
There's so much game. So much game to love in there.
So much game. So, and that's it for Joel's Game on Game Show.
That's it for Game on Game Show, and that's it for this episode of Respawn Aim Fire. Dope. So yeah, Gears of War coming. The gates are blown open. I think it makes sense with E-Day coming to all the platforms. They want you to like have the context of it. And then I think we're gonna see a proper remaster of 2 and 3 coming later, but I think they want to like actually do that, some actual, create new assets and things like that, like they did for Ultimate Edition, and have that come to all platforms. They just didn't have that loaded and ready to go. But that brings us to playtime, where we talk about what we played this week. And Cozy, you said you have a lot to talk about, including a little Gears game.
There is, sandwiched between 2 other Metroid games. So, on the last numbered episode of the Respawning Fire podcast, I talked a little bit about how I was playing Metroid Prime Hunters. I finally saw the game to completion, which, to be honest, didn't take that much time. It's not a particularly long game if all you're aiming to do is just complete the single-player campaign. Didn't absolutely love this game, but I definitely warmed up to this game a lot more the kind of further I got into it. I'm still very impressed with sort of how accurately they were able to translate the just feel of the GameCube Prime games on the original DS, the feel of walking around in 3D, jumping, charging up your arm cannon as the one and only Samus Aran is very true to what Retro Studios was able to do on the GameCube. And the control scheme to do all that, which involves you moving around with the analog stick or even the circle pad on the 3DS combined with the stylus to kind of control the direction of your camera, is tough, but you do eventually get used to it, and it does ultimately work. The level design of this particular game, it's a lot more akin to a Mario 64-like or a Banjo-Kazooie-like than a Metroidvania game, in that it's a lot more going into individual segmented levels, completing some objectives, leaving them, coming back after things have changed slightly, completing new objectives, getting new collectibles, and moving on. And it's not a particularly good example of a game in that particular genre, or a Metroidvania for that example, but it's still passable enough. The game has one really genuinely cool system where the whole reason why it's called Metroid Prime Hunters is they introduce a bunch of other bounty hunters in the Metroid universe that are vying for supremacy alongside Samus Aran. And you can basically encounter these other bounty hunters in a somewhat procedural fashion during the campaign after you have an initial scripted encounter with each of them. And if they defeat you in one of these procedural encounters, they will actually steal one of your octoliths, which is a basically
not my
key
octolith.
item. It's a key item that you're given that basically allows you to, much later on, unlock the final boss of the game. And so in order to retrieve the octolith and access the final areas of the game, you have to go and re-challenge them, which it's a pretty simple system, but I thought it was very, very interesting. And it's one of those things where I would hope that someone at Mercury Steam or Retro Studios has played Metroid Prime Hunters, because it's a really cool system, and I hope that we see it kind of brought back into a future Metroid game in some fashion. Overall, Prime Hunters, pretty low on the ranking of my, personal most loved Metroid games, but I still definitely appreciated parts of it.
There was
yes.
I go to every 2 weeks or so, I just stop into this really fantastic local retro game shop. Shout out to Game Game Time Hobby Shop, I believe is what it's called. Game Time Hobby Shop in Santa Clara. And I went in on Sunday this week, and they had like 15 copies of Metroid Prime Hunters on 3DS. I was like, or DS or whatever it came out on. I was like, woo! People can still buy it legally and play it if they want to nowadays. And it is very available.
They can, although with the kind of shutdown of Nintendo's online services on the DS, they can't access the multiplayer suite, which multiplayer suite. That's one of those words I always struggle with pronouncing, unfortunately.
Was the multiplayer available in the demo that came with the DS? I feel like it was. Part of it, at least.
At least a kind of portion of it. That's one of the things that I didn't really kind of mention throughout my kind of discussion of the campaign is like the main draw of Prime Hunters when it originally released on the DS in 2006 was the multiplayer mode. And like there are a lot of people within the Metroid community that really swear by the kind of multiplayer mode as actually being a lot of fun. It kind of came out neck and neck with Mario Kart DS. Just to kind of like put it in context of when and where it kind of came out. And alongside Mario Kart DS, it was kind of like an early example of Nintendo being like, hey, we're ready to take a few stabs at kind of online multiplayer gaming. And here's one of the first big experiences that you can, try out in that regard. Obviously, big is relative in this case, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, so I just looked it up because I definitely remember playing the multiplayer in this with my old friend Sean, childhood friend. We both got Nintendo DS's for Christmas, and we played this multiplayer. So the cartridge that came with the DS, it was the demo of the game, and it did have a version of the multiplayer where you could only play it with somebody else locally. You could not play online multiplayer, but you could. It was the kind of multiplayer where you just needed one cartridge for multiple people to play multiplayer together. So yeah, we definitely played that on the demo, and it was probably something like just one arena map or whatever, just to kind of show you what the game is. But yeah, I remember playing that, and it was a ton of fun.
Which that's another comparison with Mario Kart DS, because Mario Kart DS offered the exact same thing of being able to play its multiplayer mode with just one person's cartridge, sharing the game data to be able to do so. What's it called? Metroid Prime Hunters First Hunt. That was my first ever experience playing any Metroid game. But I definitely didn't play the multiplayer mode because I don't recall ever being in a situation where a friend was like, yo, we should check this out. So I wouldn't have been aware of that, but that's pretty cool. And so, yeah. After that, I was like, well, I want to take a quick little break from playing Metroid to try something else. Let's try Gears of War 4. And so here's what I'll say about Gears of War 4. We're all familiar with roguelikes. We're all familiar with Souls-like games or any specific genre that has like tacked on at the end of it. I found Gears of War 4 to be a great Force Awakens-like, in that it basically beat for beat is like, yo, there's this little movie called Star Wars The Force Awakens that came out that tells the story of a new generations of fighters that have to kind of take up the mantle of responsibility and kind of reconnect with an older generation of heroes to save the day once more. And I thought it was really great as kind of an adventure in that particular kind of tradition. I don't know that it's necessarily my favorite Gears of War game, or even from an objective standpoint, the best Gears of War game, but I did really enjoy it as that.
Who is this? Hold on, sorry. In the footage that you're showing right now, who is this woman on a iPad on a robot body?
So she's,
what is going on there?
I think she's like the leader, right, Cozy? Like the COG leader or something?
She basically takes over the coalition of united governments in the kind of future timeline that Gears of War 4 takes place. She's sort of the person who's mainly kind of running the show at this particular point in time. And as you kind of got a sense from the particular gameplay footage that Joel is showing on screen right now, she's not super happy with the activities of your little band of merry men and women here.
Yeah, you're essentially mercenaries at this point in the game, right? Like, you're kind of doing your own thing. Like, you're not one of the COG as Marcus Phoenix was.
Right. You're doing your own thing. This particular section, I won't like go beat by beat and spoil the entire game, but this is a fun section where basically at the end of Gears of War 3, the entire planet has been devastated. The population of, the world has been completely depleted. And so they have all these sorts of initiatives to try and repopulate and reconstruct the planet. And so what they're currently fighting through right here is like literally a prefab city that is like halfway through constructing itself. It's a pretty cool segment. Yeah, I thought this game did just a great job overall of, again, kind of telling a story about a new generation of fighters in the Gears of War universe, giving them ample time to shine and prove themselves, and also, bringing back the old class and, giving them cool and meaningful things to do. I understand people that are kind of frustrated over the fact that this game brings back the Locust, and that isn't exactly the most, original way that they could have continued the story. And the game definitely doesn't spend enough time really adequately explaining how the Locust came back. But they at least kind of give it the proper kind of circumstance and importance and pace that you would want out of the Locust returning. It's not a somehow Palpatine has returned and we're right off to the races like situation here, which is definitely much appreciated. Few little complaints. Number one, JD Phoenix, who is the blonde-haired protagonist that you're looking at right here, is not exactly my favorite Gears of War protagonist. He's fine enough, but he very much kind of feels Nathan Drake light. There's this is a little bit of a tangent, but stick with me on this. There's a kind of common line of critique nowadays when it comes to kind of like the movie industry about how so many big movies, especially like big ensemble action movies nowadays, like tend to kind of cast people that tend to kind of like just look a lot better. Like you're more kind of prone to see movies that feature just like a cast of supermodel or supermodel adjacent looking people than you are to see movies like Jurassic Park or Independence Day that are kind of made up of weird ass looking people that nevertheless sort of fit into these specific niches that they need to fulfill. Yeah, that's a big ass.
You just called out Will Smith. You heard it here first. Cozy said Will Smith is a weird ass looking motherfucker.
I feel the same thing about the original Gears of War trilogy, where like I would never like go on a soapbox and say that, oh man, Marcus Phoenix and his gang of friends are like the most diverse cast of characters ever in a video game. But Marcus Phoenix, at the very least, does look like a meatball, and I mean that in the sense that he doesn't look like, oh man, you took him out of a supermodel magazine and kind of put him in this post-apocalyptic shooter. Sometimes these words are hard, boys. And JD Vance, he just looks a little bit too pretty in that regard.
JD Vance.
Man, I'm amazed that I did not make that mistake until this point in time. That is one of those things where like we have not heard that much about the future of the Gears of War series since Trump and JD Vance went into power. I wonder how they deal with that in the future.
Gears of War
Trump and
devs
JD Vance,
or the Trump administration? How are they going to deal with JD in Gears of War going forward?
I don't know. I hope that once we get to Gears of War 5, I've shucked this off. I will also say complaint number 2, the Snatchers really suck. The Snatchers are the enemies that basically will attempt to one-shot you with a almost like impossible to avoid projectile, and then they will snatch you up in their bellies and try to make off with you. Cool conceptually, but they tend to be pretty overpowered. There were many times playing through the campaign where they would just jump over to my location, instantly kill me, swallow me up, and then take me off, and my companions were too just chicken shit to be able to kill it. And so that was it for me. But yeah, other than that, I had fun with Gears of War 4. I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to Gears of War 5. Gears of War 5.
Gears 5 is great.
Gears 5.
I haven't played 4, but Gears 5 is great.
And finally, last but not least, after completing I was about to say Metroid Prime 5. I have not played Metroid Prime 5 because that does not exist yet. After playing Gears of War 4, I went on a little weekend trip to Toronto. And for the weekend trip to Toronto, I was like, you know what? I think it's finally time that I play a little game called Metroid Prime Federation Force for the 3DS. Now, quick question. Did either of you play this game back in the day?
I did not even know this existed. So, no.
You didn't even know this existed?
No.
Oh man. So let me tell you, Joel. Actually, let me ask you a question. When Nintendo unveiled Metroid Prime Federation Force for the 3DS, do you think that fans of the Metroid series were happy, or do you think that they were a little disappointed?
I would guess disappointed because they probably wanted a Metroid Prime 4, which they still want.
People, let me tell you, people were not happy when Nintendo announced this game. So the premise of this game is basically you don't play as Samus Aran. It's like the only Metroid game where straight up you don't play as Samus Aran at any point during it. Instead, you play as a bunch of Marines in the kind of like Galactic Federation that are part of this specific force that is like comprised of members that basically get into these giant mechs. But for whatever reason, they decided to go with a like very particular, like chibi kind of cartoonish art style. It's a little hard to see in some of the footage that's being shown right now because it's entirely in first person, but you kind of like skip around to other parts of the video and you'll see that it looks, yeah, that's a good example of what I'm talking about.
I want to point something out. I just looked up when this came out. This came out August 19th, 2016. And Metroid Prime 3 came out in 2007, August 27, 2007. So they waited 9 years to launch a first-person Metroid game, and then this was the result. I'd be pretty pissed, too, if I was a big Metroid Prime fan.
Yeah, the story of how this particular game came to be is kind of complicated. We don't need to kind of get into the logistics and details of exactly what happened here. Here's the thing. I feel bad ragging on this game because it's nearly 10 years old, and everybody basically hated on it when it first came out, but I will say, I went into this game just with a completely open mind. I'm like, I'm not going to let the graphical style or the premise of this game deter me from enjoying it if I end up enjoying it. But man, this game was rough. Again, conceptually, the game is weird, putting you in the kind of boots of these troopers that are inside of these mechs and not having Samus Aran being involved. But even beyond that, like the problem with Federation Force is that it's basically built entirely around cooperative play. You're supposed to kind of team up with a bunch of other people. It's actually not dissimilar to The Legend of Zelda Triforce Heroes, which I believe you guys did play back in the day. Similar idea there, where like that game makes sense when you're playing with a group of people, but by yourself, it's like just really unbalanced and doesn't really work. Even though the game encourages you to still try to play it solo and kind of gives you a bunch of mods that make it so that things are a little bit easier when you kind of go out by yourself into its levels. Beyond that, just a lot of what the kind of campaign asks you to do is just very kind of boring and mundane by Metroid standards. There are so many levels where it's like, you got to push a trolley through a desert. You got to herd these giant ice monsters into cages. And it's like, what is this 3D platformer collectathon side quest bullshit? Like, this is not what you do in a Metroid game. This is boring. The final few levels do ramp up and kind of deliver that kind of exciting Metroid experience that you want, but it's one of those things where once you get to those levels, it's like, man, you just can't help but wish that the rest of the game was more like this. The thing that really kind of killed this game for me, though, is actually the control scheme. So you have one of two possible control schemes. Control scheme number one is if you have the new 3DS and you have the little nub on the side, you can use the nub on the side as like your camera control, but it doesn't work particularly well. Control scheme number two is basically you use the gyro functionality of the 3DS as your camera to look around.
Love
and like
that.
I don't hate gyro in other games. I will use gyro motion controls in Splatoon to just get that.
Gyro was OP in the Ocarina of Time 3D remake on 3DS. Like that made that game way too easy. Shooting your bow and arrow with the gyro controls.
And that's another example where like, yeah, that worked totally fine in that game because that game's a little bit slow paced. So you don't have enemies that are trying to kill you from every which angle. In this game, there are enemies that are trying to kill you from every which angle at any given moment. And it just makes the process of playing it really annoying because the entire time that you're playing it, you're like, you have to constantly move your head around and look at the game from weird angles because you're like, oh, fuck, there's an enemy there. There's an enemy there. It just really didn't work out all that well. And as someone that really loves the 3D effect on the 3DS, it sucked for me because I'm like, well, now I can't get to appreciate the 3D effect because I'm constantly moving my 3DS off to the side and ruining the effect. Last thing I'll say real quick, and this actually, it's funny because this weirdly ties into Gears of War 4. At the very end of Gears of War 4's campaign, there's a couple of missions, spoilers for the end of the game, where you are given gigantic robots that you use to trample just a horde of enemies under your foot. And it's a really satisfying set of levels. I enjoyed those levels, especially because I finally just got to beat the shit out of a million snatchers after they had given me so much pain during the campaign. But overall, like, those levels really kind of communicate a sense of bigness, that you are in just gigantic metallic monstrosities that are just wreaking havoc on the environment around you. In Federation Force, again, you are in mechs that are supposed to be big, but like the game never really kind of effectively communicates the fact that you are in giant robots, because all of the other enemies that you fight are kind of like standard size by the kind of like standard of what to expect out of the Metroid series. They actually explain in game that, like, oh yeah, the space pirates, the primary enemies of the game, found an ancient device that will basically enlarge whatever it is that they want. And it's like, okay, cool, but like now I don't get the satisfaction of feeling big in a world that is small. So yeah. I feel bad ragging on this game that, you know, was sort of torn apart way back when. Next Level Games, which was the developer on this particular experience, they also did Luigi's Mansion 2 on the 3DS, which is a great game, and they recently worked on Luigi's Mansion 3, which is also really, really good. So they're good people with, you know, a good head on their shoulders. I expect that they will continue to make fantastic games, but this particular experience was not that great. And that is all I have to share.
Dang. 0 out of 10 from Cozy for Federation Force.
It's probably like a 4 out of 10.
It has a 64 on Metacritic.
Yeah,
Ooh,
not very high.
That's higher than I expected, based on what you were saying.
Yeah.
Oh, I would definitely. I'm more in like the 4 out of 10 range.
Joel, speaking of high things, what did you play? You rate it highly? What's going on?
So here's where I'm at, right? I've been busy trying to buy a house, condo, whatever. So I've been preoccupied with other stuff most of the time. And I love Expedition 33. I'm like 10-ish hours into that, and I want to keep playing it. But that's a game that like requires my full attention when I'm playing. But I really, this weekend, Kind of Funny did their marathon stream of Death Stranding. And I played probably 70% through Death Stranding, and I want to get back to it and play it and finish it before the new one comes out, which I don't think is going to happen before the new one comes out, but we'll see. But anyway, I wanted to watch that just because I love when they do the marathon streams, just because I'm a big Kind of Funny fan. I just love all the guys there. And Mike is just insanely fun to watch. He's such a good entertainer just because of his personality. And so I wanted something that I could play while watching that simultaneously. And for me, that was Avowed. And this is a game that I played like 20-ish hours of, 22-ish hours going into this past weekend. And so I was a pretty good chunk through the game. You could beat it in probably like 25, 30 hours. But yeah, so I was a good chunk through the game, and I picked it back up, and it just, I don't know, it's just fun to me. It's kind of like what I was saying during our Outer Worlds review, or, you know, BARF episode, is I like what they're doing with these smaller chunk, like RPGs. It's not like overly huge like Skyrim, where like a game like that, if I start, I'm immediately going to get overwhelmed with too much stuff to do. Like that's something that's literally going to take over your whole life. Whereas this is something you can get in and out, you know, 30-ish hours, 35 hours, and you're good to go. But yeah, I enjoy this game. I mean, it's not amazing, right? I would probably give this probably like an 8 out of 10 for me. It doesn't do stuff like, I haven't played Oblivion or Skyrim, but I assume you could just like go and hack and slash at people and get in trouble, right? That's kind of what you can do in those games. Like you could just go kill anybody. Does anybody know? Neither of you guys know?
No, I haven't played.
Wow.
I don't know.
I assumed at least one of you have, considering how big of a game they are. But anyway.
No, I played a little bit of Skyrim back in the day, but not enough to remember enough of it.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's just like, you can't just go attacking anybody, and it does weird stuff like related to that, where like you walk past people and everybody just stares at you, right? Like their whole head will turn and follow you no matter where you go, and it's like not even somebody you can interact with, which is the most annoying thing. So weird stuff like that. I'm now like 34 hours into the game, maybe 35, and I'm like right at the end of the game, annoyingly so. This game does that thing where you keep thinking you beat it, or you keep thinking you're at the final thing, but then you have to do one more thing, and then one more thing, and then like I literally got to the point where I'm like, all right, this is the end of the game. I killed, two big bad guys, and and I did the thing. I made my choice. Games like this, there's always a choice. I had 3 options to choose from. I made my choice, and I was like, cool, this is it. This is the end of the game. And then like cutscene happens, and then you just like spawn back in like the home, like we're pretty much where the game started. And it's like, all right, go talk to these people. And you start talking to these people, and they're like, oh yeah, we still got to do this. And I'm like, what the fuck? I thought this game was over. I was so excited. Like he was lining up perfectly when I wanted to go to bed. So I have no idea how much longer I have. I assume it's only like 2 or 3 hours max, based on like what the story has done. But yeah, I enjoy this game a lot. It's a great kind of podcast game for me. Like I'm not heavily invested into the story, but it's just a ton of fun. Like the hack and slash. I will say, like I found the weapon I want to use very, very early on, and I've used it almost the entire time. And like for games like this, I tend to like try different things, which I did to start. But once I found like what I wanted to do, I was like, oh, that's how I'm playing this whole game. So my main hand, I'm using a one-handed sword, and in my offhand, I'm using a pistol. And I've just loved every second of it.
Bloodborne style, huh?
Yeah. I've never played Bloodborne, so I don't know.
Oh, yeah, but you got a gun and a weapon, yeah.
I've loved every second of it. Ton of fun. And I actually pulled up this gameplay video that is up on the screen right now. And this person at times is playing in third person. Like right now, you can see he's playing in third person. I completely forgot you could do that. Like I played, like when I first started playing, I like tried it out. Wasn't for me. I preferred first person. But then I started watching this gameplay. I was like, oh shit, I completely forgot you could play this whole game in third person. So if you're a third person sicko, I guess that's for you. I preferred first person personally. But yeah, this game looks and runs great on my, brand new PC. So it's been a fun time. I'm excited to beat it. It's not something I'll like, feel the need to go and get every achievement for, or, go back and do the different endings. That kind of stuff just isn't for me in any kind of game, really. But yeah, I've been enjoying Avowed. I'm excited to get back to Expedition 33 one day. And also Dragon Age Veilguard. That's another game where I'm like 70% of the way through. Like it just takes me like a dedicated weekend and I'll finish it. But it's just a matter of finding that dedicated weekend, Yep. Life's busy.
Recently, I just want to say we did our barf review of The Outer Worlds. How would you say, I know they're not perfectly comparable, but like how would you say that this game compares to your experience with The Outer Worlds?
I like this more than The Outer Worlds personally, just because it seems like they took a lot of what they were trying to do with Outer Worlds and evolved it. But yeah, it is still more so of like that dumbed down kind of, RPG kind of game. Like I said, I think in Skyrim and stuff, you could just go attacking anybody and there's repercussions. You can go to jail and stuff. But this obviously doesn't have that. You can get caught stealing and stuff, but I don't actually, no, I don't think you can even get caught stealing in this game. I think you can just pick everything up you want. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's what I did is I just walked around picking everything up I wanted. It has like, a transmog type system too, where like if you find better gear, but you like the way your old gear looked, you can use that. Which is what I did because I bought the deluxe edition of the game. And so, like, the gear it came with just looked so cool where I'm like, all right, I'm just going to keep this gear on the whole time, pretty much. And plus, I didn't play in third person, so it didn't really matter to me. But yeah, I think they took what they were doing with Outer Worlds and kind of just expanded on that a bit more, which makes me really excited for Outer Worlds too. Because, yeah, I understand what you said, Cozy. You said, that you thought Outer Worlds was just like an okay game, right? Like you weren't like the biggest fan of it, but like you liked some aspects of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that this game expanded on that, and I think Outer Worlds 2 is going to just expand on this even further. At least I would hope so. But yeah, this game does some goofy like comedy stuff as well. Not nearly as much as Outer Worlds does, I don't think, but yeah, like there's like some sex jokes in there that are like
Ooh.
very obvious and random.
Ooh la la.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It was a good time. Like there obviously like games like this they have like the obviously stupid people to where it's like they just do something really dumb and everybody's like, why the hell would they do that? You know, that kind of thing. I don't know. I love what they're doing with these games. Very excited for Outer Worlds 2. And yeah, I mean, I know how this game is going to end already, like Avowed, just based on where I am in the game, what I've done. I assume there's just like one other big bad guy I got to go kill, and then the game will end. So yeah, that's been my time with Avowed.
Dope. I played one game, FTECO, which stands for I was a full-time employee of Claire Obscure, because
Whoa.
I played from the day it released until 2 weeks after it came out when I got the Platinum Trophy this Saturday morning. I played 71 hours of this game.
Question,
Which
Chad.
was, yeah.
So typically what I do when we're podcasting is I'll just I'll go on YouTube and type in Expedition 33 gameplay to pull up footage. This video is the full game and it's 17 hours long. Can you really beat the game that fast?
You probably can if you yeah, you probably can.
That's
if you
crazy.
don't do any side stuff and you skip through some cinematics. Be careful skipping around. Maybe only skip around in the first like 15% of that. Yeah. Because this game, I'm not going to talk a lot about it right now because I don't the game is so fucking good and there are so many things that I like really want to talk about that are 100% spoilers that I don't want to spoil for anybody. So there will maybe be, Jerica has told me she's very interested in all capital letters in doing a spoiler cast. So we might have a little fireside chat, she and I, talking about this game in a spoiler perspective. But this game is not only GOTY for me right now, but it's also like one of my games of my life.
Wow.
It is fan-fucking-tastic in just about every single way. I think what makes it really like compelling to me, aside from the combat, which I know that you and Adam were last time where you were like, no, the parrying sucks, whatever. Turn it to story mode. That's totally fine, which I recently learned while trying to beat an optional really tough boss. Story mode just makes your parry window larger, and that's about it.
That's what I did. That's when I started enjoying the game a lot more, was when I turned it down to story mode. And I will say, they need like somewhere in the middle, right? Because like I want a challenge, but like I'm parrying goddamn every attack that comes my way now, and it feels like I'm cheating.
The challenge comes. There is this game opens up in Act 3 in like a way that just like you get to do so many wild things, and you get to do like the difficulty in the combat becomes like escalates if you want it to. You get a bunch of different types of pictos and skills and things like that you could, it becomes a build crafting game, which is one of my favorite things about Destiny is, you know, trying to min-max a build and create something that's like completely broken in some ways, but also you die if someone sneezes at you or something like that. But I think what's really most impressive about this game to me is just how much I was like completely sucked into the characters and this super complex, not complex that it's hard to understand, but just like this complex narrative where like you don't know how to feel about it. There are probably 5 characters that this game could have been from the perspective of, and you happen to follow one of them. But any of those 5, you absolutely could have been playing as that character, going through all of their same actions in the same way. And at the end of the game, the way that like you are fighting for the right thing. And so that's when it's always like the most interesting, when a villain in a game, a movie, a book, or whatever it is like they're the hero of their own story and they view what they're doing as like completely right. And it's just like every single person in this game has a 100% valid justification for what they're doing. And it's incredible how they weave all of this together. So I cannot wait to talk more in depth about it spoiler wise. But yeah, this game is I think I told the secret Discord, I don't know if it's my favorite game of all time, but it is absolutely up there with like The Last of Us and God of War, like in my mind, as far as experiences overall.
Question, Chad.
It's so great.
There's a sword in the game that people have said is like broken. Did you use that sword? Did you get that sword?
Broken how? The only sword I didn't get was the baguette, the secret baguette, which is something you have to like play the game twice or 3 times to get. So
there's a sword that you can get without spoiling the story. You go to a place where you have to fight an arena, right? You know what I'm talking about? Pretty early on. Did you get that sword for using the certain character to get the sword?
Yeah.
I forget what it's called. You know, the girl with the pink hair? Did you use her and get that? Okay. So apparently they nerfed that sword today in a patch because
did they?
stance, because it gives you a specific stance you can use, right?
Right.
At the start of battle that gives you like a 200% damage boost. Right. And apparently people were min-maxing with that sword to where you could kill the final boss in the game in one hit with that sword. So they completely nerfed it.
It wasn't the final boss of the game, because the final boss of the game I had was literally I just exhaled forcefully and he fell over because I had done so much other shit in the game by the time I got to him. But the secret optional super hard boss, that was the one where I'm like, where I put it on story mode and was like, how am I going to fucking do this? And I looked up a build and they're like, oh yeah, try this, this, and this. And yeah, I put on that sword and I went and got all the pictos that it told me to get and did everything. And I went from the average amount of damage I was doing with an attack was 30 to 60,000, and a counterattack would do sometimes 400, 500,000 damage.
It's crazy.
And with this sword on that boss, 175 million damage.
Wow.
175 million. He didn't even get a chance to attack once. Dead. DED dead.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where when I do finally get to that point in 8 months or whatever, whatever my timeline is, they're gonna have patched this game so much where I'm not gonna be able to do that. It's, I'm gonna actually have to try. Even looking up a build, I'm gonna have to try and beat it.
That's what's so beautiful about this game is that you go and look up a build, you say, what's the best weapon for so-and-so? And everyone's like, this is the best weapon. And then someone else was like, no, this is the best weapon because you can pair it with blah, 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 and it does this. And someone's like, actually, I use this with this weapon and they're a fucking tank over there. And it's like, while they nerf that, something else, some other combination of the, I don't know, 150 pictos that you can get and the different types of skills that you can use, something's going to come to fruition and say, hey, this is the new replacement.
It's like Destiny with the metas, but they're not going to patch this game every week like Destiny does. After a certain point, they're going to go 3 months in between patches. So,
yeah, fucking wild shit. Love this game so much. All right, speaking of Destiny, our quest log. We have one quest in the quest log. Y'all thought that we didn't have a regular episode last week, and I was out, so we weren't going to talk about all the Destiny news. I'm digging this shit up from a couple weeks ago, y'all. The Witness is dead. Long live the next Witness. This is coming from a press release on Bungie.com. A few things here about their reveal stream. Bungie revealed the Year of Prophecy, the upcoming Year of Destiny content, which includes 2 expansions, core game updates, major seasonal updates, and more. The next chapter of its evolving universe is Destiny 2: The Edge of Fate, which sets the stage for the new saga, the Fate Saga. They also mentioned in this live stream, too, that the Fate Saga is their next, gonna be around for several years kind of thing, and the Year of Prophecy is all about, asking questions. You're what the fuck is this? Ooh, what is that? And, mysteries for us to unravel over the next several years. The Edge of Fate expansion releases July 15th and invites players to uncover one of Destiny 2's biggest mysteries, and the Nine will play a central role in this storyline. The Nine is a race of alien beings that have been around forever, and we've been trading with one on the weekends in the tower sometimes, and pretty cool people. The expansion will take place on Kepler, a new destination inspired by the puzzle-solving and path-finding challenges of Destiny 2's dungeons. Hell yeah, dungeons in my regular environment. A key feature of Kepler is an abundant dark matter energy which powers the abilities available to the Guardian while exploring the destination. The new Matter Spark ability allows Guardians to bind to dark matter to change forms, enabling them to squeeze through tight spaces, jump and dash across terrain, and become a rolling force of destruction. Additional abilities include the new Relocator cannon, which uses fall and dark matter tech to teleport players across the environment, and Mattermorph, which lets Guardians manipulate their surroundings using the combined forces of dark matter and Strand. And then Bungie also announced Destiny 2 Renegades, the second expansion in the Year of Prophecy, coming this December 2nd, 2025. Inspired by the legendary Star Wars universe, Renegades merges Destiny's distinctive storytelling and gameplay with themes and elements drawn from the iconic sci-fi franchise.
The Star Wars stuff sounds cool. I'm sure it's going to be cool. Here's the thing. I don't know a whole lot about the lore of Destiny. I knew that there was the Sphere, the Traveler, and I knew that there were his natural enemies, the Triangle dudes that were coming to cause some damage, but I understand that, in fact, it wasn't so light and dark, that there were perhaps shades of gray to their whole conflict. I don't know if that's actually true or not, but...
Well, darkness is a tool. It's not necessarily inherently evil.
Interesting. Anyways, the point is I kind of got more or less a very basic grasp of the central conflict of the Destiny universe prior to that big expansion that came out the other year that everyone really loved, that seemingly wrapped up the storyline of the Traveler and his Triangle enemies. What exactly, to the best of your ability, can you describe what the plot of the Fate saga is going to entail?
I don't think we know.
Nothing?
We got like the first little invitation of it this week as the Rite of the Nine went live, which is like you were invited to do special versions of these dungeons for the Nine. Like the Nine have always been like these mysterious beings that we only interact with like once or twice throughout the whole 10-year thing of Destiny. Which include like some of them are like really mysterious, spooky stuff. And then some of them are like hysterical, dumb shit like Star Horse and the Dares of Eternity, and this horse that just runs game shows and wants you to get cash and prizes. But yeah, they're basically just letting us know this year of content is just about this new race of people and setting up whatever the next several years of this plot and gameplay is going to be. Now that the Witness is dead and gone, that's what we're doing. And for the Star Wars stuff in particular, they've said whatever happens in Renegades is in canon, like Destiny in canon, not Star Wars in canon. But it's also like it's not exact, like it's not Star Wars. Like you're not going to run across Han Solo, but you will find weapons that are basically lightsabers and blasters. You will, like, all the font and aesthetic is all very reminiscent and in fact partnered with and licensed to be Star Wars, because like you're going to have Darth Vader and General Grievous as ornaments, but it's not a crossover storyline at all. It is just very much aesthetically Star Wars, but telling a Destiny story in there.
You gonna buy this collector's edition?
Oh, I almost impulse bought it when I saw it, but no, I decided not to.
Yeah, I think this is a cooler one than the last one, I think.
Yeah.
The tower. If I didn't already have the tower one, I would probably jump on this instead. But
will Dexter Jetster be in the Star Wars Destiny expansion?
Is that a Star Wars character? Dexter
He's the
Jetster?
dude. He's the dude that Obi-Wan Kenobi meets at the diner in episode 2. Don't you remember?
Oh yeah.
He's the big dude who tells him about the clone army.
Oh yeah.
This guy, I literally just watched this and I couldn't remember his name.
Yeah, look at this big old.
Dexter,
I mean, I think
Jetster.
I'm assuming this is. Oh no, this is actually. For a second, I was like, man, those graphics look like they're from the Clone Wars TV show. But
Yeah,
no,
I was gonna say this is a cartoon, but no, that's the movie.
Yeah, him. They gotta have. If they have Dexter Jetster in the upcoming expansion, they gotta have Boss Nass in there as well. Gotta have Boss Nass.
Imagine a world where they have the crossover event. They say, yeah, everything that happens is canon. Everything you find is canon. And he is the only actual Star Wars canon character.
Yeah, like named character. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think they're gonna put any named characters or anything. I think it is just gonna be like themed weapons and stuff.
Yeah.
Which, how do you feel about that? Because I feel like, I don't know, Destiny's been its own thing forever, and for them to pull stuff from like a different IP kind of feels like they're, I don't know, I don't want to say a cop-out or lazy, but it feels like they kind of have run out of ideas, I guess. And so they're like, all right, who can we collaborate with? Let's collaborate with Star Wars and do something with that.
That's why like we have so little information on like what this actually is. They've had partnerships for years now with like just licensed ornament sets in the Eververse, like with Ghostbusters and The Witcher and Mass Effect, and all that kind of stuff. So like this isn't a new thing to have like Star Wars stuff, but this it feels like it is like one step further than cosmetics, but they I forget who it was on Twitter, but one of the devs on Twitter, the one that confirmed that everything's in canon, they're like, we're telling a Destiny story. Like this is a Destiny story just with things that look and feel a lot like Star Wars assets, kinda.
Okay, so, I just don't want them to do the cop-out thing where it's like they reference the Clone Wars in the lore of some blaster that you find. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I want it still to be its own Destiny experience. I don't want them to straight up take some sort of story line and evolve it, trying to say like, Destiny takes place X amount of years after all this stuff happened, like try and make it in the same universe somehow.
Yeah. I don't think Disney would allow that because now that, didn't they say everything that happens going forward is canon for Star Wars? So like if that shows up in a Destiny universe and something they don't have control over, then that's probably...
You know what they could do? They could take all the characters from what's referred to as Star Wars Legends, which is all the like non-canonical Star Wars characters that used to be canon before they rebooted everything in 2012, and just reintegrate those characters into the Destiny universe. Bring back Prince Caesar from Star Wars Shadows of the Empire.
Because you got to stop making stuff up.
No, Prince Caesar is a real character. He's a race of alien characters that have powerful pheromones, and he uses that to enchant Princess Leia in Star Wars Shadow of the Empire. It's a very weird subplot.
All right. Well, I'm pumped for this Destiny stuff. I like that they're doing, rather than doing one big yearly expansion, it feels interesting that they're doing two slightly smaller ones. That they even mentioned like the combined content from this like two smaller expansions will be bigger than what we've done before. And so that feels really interesting to me that we're going to get that. But there's also just like a ton of other, like there's yet another brand new UI coming for your director. In fact, it's not going to be a director anymore. It's like it's a portal now. And there's like, all right, you can do, there's a whole section just called solo activities, a whole section just for PvP. There's a whole section just for, Vanguard things or raid type activity, like pinnacle stuff. So like they're revamping that UI yet again to try to make it even more accessible to newer players.
And they're getting rid of the tower. Now you're going to run around the Millennium Falcon.
They're not getting rid of the tower. But yeah, there's a bunch of cool updates coming. Armor 3.0.
The Traveler is now the Death Star.
Ooh, I'm not against that actually. That would be cool. But the coolest thing is the Matter Spark. I'm just kidding. To be honest, it would be cooler if it didn't remind me of Splatoon. Like you turn into this little electrical energy and like zoom through the floor and then like pop up in different places and interact with shit and then go back into this. It looks like you're, instead of paint, it's electricity and you're doing all the same shit. But regardless, I'm pumped. I can't wait.
Do we ever think, and I'm not, this isn't, I mean, it's going to sound like a silly question, but it's not a silly question. Will we ever get Destiny 2 on a Nintendo console? Because I feel like they could have done it at this point. They could have figured out how to fit it on the original Switch if they wanted to.
Original Switch feels like a probably
stretch.
not. Yeah, just because like they abandoned PS3 and Xbox 360 a while ago, so I feel like Switch 1 would not have worked. The only reason why I say probably not Switch 2 is just future looking. Like if they say yes, we support Switch 2, then it's not going to support Switch 2 for long before they were like, all right, we want to make another generational leap forward, and we can't do that because of Switch 2. But maybe I don't know. I mean, you're now able to like just literally stream it straight from the cloud in so many others, like through Game Pass, through PlayStation Plus, through NVIDIA GeForce. Like you might get it on Switch just as a cloud version.
We'll see.
We will see. That's coming July 15th, my sister's birthday. And I'm going to take the day off and play with my boys. All right. We don't have a Game on Game show or a segment from Adam, but we do have a Not KKK.
Cozy's question of the week. So technically KKOTK. No, OTW.
And for folks who can't see the dot, question is spelled with a K. K-U-E-S-G-N.
Correct. Correctamundo.
All right,
We've
Cozy,
actually...
give us some questions.
I have to say, going into this episode, it kind of seemed like we weren't going to have a lot to talk about, but we've been talking for quite a bit. So we'll limit this to just 2 questions. Chad, I want you to pick a number, a whole number between 1 and 16. And Joel, I want you to pick a number between 17 and 33.
I'm going to pick
32.
10 because there is a hole in 10. The 0 acts as a hole that you can put things through. You can put the 1 through the 0, and then it's like sex.
And Joel, you
32.
picked 32.
32.
Okay. You know what? Let's start with 32 because I don't remember under what circumstances I wrote this question, but this will be fun. Do you think that you could successfully fight and defeat the Kind of Funny studio if all of its machinery came alive and tried to kill you, like in the Stephen King movie Maximum Overdrive?
Probably not.
No.
That video wall would just engulf me, and everything else would beat the shit out of me.
Yeah, that jib is straight up just going to like smash,
Yeah, exactly.
smash.
There's no chance I could beat that up.
I feel like you could camp in the corner for a little while. The one thing we do know about their studio is that they are not lacking in snacks. So like, I'm sure you could find like a big old bag of chips or Oreos and just kind of like wait things out. Hopefully maybe the batteries will run out.
What if that nude painting of Kevin from the bathroom comes alive?
Oh no.
Tries to give you a big old bear hug.
Terrible. That would be awful. All right. And I guess that's that question. Moving on to number 10. Here we go. This is interesting. You're gifted the ability to communicate telepathically, but only with 3 other people and or animals of your choosing. Which people and or animals do you choose?
Do we have to be in the same room? Like, can I communicate telepathically across the world?
Yes, you can communicate wherever you are.
Second question. Can they communicate back, or can I restrict their communication back?
Ooh, oh, yikes.
I mean, they can communicate back with you, but then like anyone that you communicate doesn't suddenly get the power to communicate telepathically with other people as well.
It's not a pyramid
Basically.
scheme.
Right.
All right.
Not a pyramid.
One of my people is going to be Donald Trump, and I'm just going to constantly tell him telepathically he's a fucking moron. And that way, it's just my voice in his head. He doesn't know who it is, but that's all he fucking hears. And he can't telepathically talk back to me because he doesn't know who the fuck I am.
That's fantastic. That's excellent.
I would waste one of my 3 on that.
That is a really good one.
You would have to, because he can communicate back to you though. So like,
no, he can, but he won't because he doesn't know who I am.
Okay.
He doesn't know.
Okay. I definitely want to talk to my dog. Figure out, like,
yeah.
Hey, do you actually like it when I scratch you right here on your side and your leg goes like that, or like?
I don't know. Like, yes and no for me. I would love to telepathically talk to Gwen, my dog, but I mean, Chad met her firsthand. She can be a handful. Like, she is just full of energy and stuff.
I'm sure
like,
she only screams when she talks.
Yes. She is definitely like the hot Cheeto girl from high school that would show up in Cookie Monster sweatpants and slippers every day.
Oh my God.
There was at 7 a.m.
There was a girl named Crystal who was hot Cheeto girl. And yeah, she wore like sweatpants and she always had Cheeto fingers because she was always eating hot Cheetos. But she also loved to come up behind you and start giving you a shoulder massage with her fucking Cheeto fingers too. It's like fucking Crystal.
That's not good.
I bet you Crystal's in prison right now. Third person would have to be my wife, 100%. Because like the second Elise catches wind of me talking telepathically with anybody but her, it's an infinite fight. Infinite fight.
Man. Well, would she fight with you if you learned that you were doing it with Donald Trump, or would she understand your scheme?
I think she would understand my scheme. I think she would understand and respect it. Because it would drive him insane. Like, literally, it would drive him insane. My wife is already, like, throwing shit away.
Yes.
because we're moving next month.
Oh, man. I
My
think for
second
me,
person would be
Sorry.
the commissioner of Dallas's hockey league.
Oh,
So I can just
Yes.
like telepathically convince him to hold hockey games on specific nights that we aren't playing whatever game we're playing, like repo, whatever it might be. So I definitely want to have an ear with that guy. What do you got, Cozy?
sorry. No, I thought you were gonna say a third
I
one.
don't have a third one yet.
You know, honestly, like the thing is, I mean, Trump's a pretty good choice. I feel like JD Vance would almost be a little bit more interesting just because JD Vance, you know, obviously the esteemed protagonist of Gears of War 4, that man is like a little bit more cognizant. The problem with Trump is I could imagine like you attempting to communicate telepathically with him, and the guy's just like so senile at this point that he doesn't even fully, he won't even be fully aware of what's going on. Whereas Vance,
And you somehow get like a brain virus by communicating with him, and he like infects your brain. And what the fuck is going on?
You don't want to be inside that head of his. Whereas Vance is like on that kind of level of cognizant enough where you can like really like mess with him, and he's just gonna really feel it. And yeah, I would definitely take him to task. Outside of that, like, to be honest, there aren't a whole lot of people, which I will say it's pretty sad that the only person I could think of communicating with telepathically is like someone who's actively
JD
trying to
Vance.
undermine or trying to undermine my country. I mean, I've thought about maybe it would be cool to communicate with her cat, Jackie. She's currently at
Hold on. Your cat's
Jackie
name is
Q.
Jackie?
Yeah, have I
That
not
is such
talked
a
about
great
this
cat name.
on the podcast?
You probably have. I didn't know about that.
She, we got her like about 4 years ago at this point. Her original name was Jacques Cartier, because Jacques Cartier was a famous explorer way back when during like the 1600s. Because as a kitten, she was a very like explorative and rambunctious kitten. But then they discovered that he was actually a she, and so they changed her name to Jacqueline. And then when we adopted her, we just shortened it to Jackie. That's how we got Jackie.
You know what's really funny? I was gonna make a joke before you told the actual name. I was gonna make a joke like, oh, they named her Jackie for Jackie Robinson, but then they found out she was a boy, or that it was a girl instead of a boy. But that's the real life story. Instead of Jackie Robinson, it's Jacques Cartier Diamonds.
Hell yeah. Yeah, Jackie, I want to have like a little bit of a stronger connection with Jackie than I already do. But the only problem is that right now, Jackie is living with my sister in Saint Hyacinthe, which is like an hour and a half outside of Montreal. So there are just not many opportunities on the day-to-day to really hang out with her. So it wouldn't really be worth it. So yeah, JD Vance and maybe Jackie, my cat.
And maybe Jackie.
Definitely JD, maybe the cat.
And that is that for Cozy's question of the week, KKOTW.
KK Tau Kakatawa.
Katadadao.
We'll work on it.
Kakatao.
And that's it for episode 394 is not the right answer. 6? What are we on now?
No, it is
94.
394.
Is it 94?
94.
For real?
Yeah.
Okay, 394 of Respawn Aim Fire. Homework for everyone. Your homework is go play Hollow Knight. Spoilers. It's a great game with a fantastic soundtrack. So yeah, go play Hollow Knight for Barf. At the end of the month, we will talk about it and our experience with it as part of our Barf game for the month, which means in like 2-ish weeks, if you're a Patreon subscriber, a patron over on Patreon, you get to vote on whatever we play in June. In June, I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. Let's keep June like a whoever's picking for June. Let's keep it like a shorter game month. You know, Joel's going to be out there moving. I'm going to be out there playing a bunch of Mario Kart World.
Well, I'm already going to tell you guys I'm not playing Hollow Knight. So,
oh yeah, you're already going to be fucking overwhelmed.
I mean, the one problem with this idea is that this would probably exclude Adam, but we probably should make June just like, hey, our Barf game for this month is just the launch of the Switch 2. But we might want to discuss that with Adam and see what he thinks.
I'd be down to do that. We can do a Barf because I'd imagine well, Cozy, you got a Switch 2 pre-order, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'd imagine between the three of us, we're going to play a diverse amount of games. Let's make our Barf just a special, Nintendo Switch 2 special, where we talk about the different games we played and what we've found.
The only
In terms
issue
of,
I
like,
see with that
performance.
is like
we're going to talk about it every week anyway.
Well, one, we're going to talk about it every week anyway, but two, like, it's really only Mario Kart, right? That's coming out for the first month.
Well, plus, like, upgraded games, right? I'd imagine, like, I might play Zelda and you guys might not, and I could talk about that upgrade. I don't know.
It runs.
Well, no, there's enhanced
Great.
upgrades.
I mean, yeah, but it's all like visual shit, right? It's all just like
What
a little
if
bit prettier, a little bit faster.
What if we scour the launch library of the Switch 2 and find the game that the least people are buying and have it be about that game? What if we do Dragon Drive as our barf
What if
game
we do
for June?
Oh, God,
Welcome Park. Welcome.
There you go.
Yeah,
there you
Welcome
go. Each of
Park.
us takes a different chunk of Welcome Park. We'll figure it out offline.
Yeah.
Cozy already forgot about what was your announcement again? Is that something we need to bring back up again?
It's a good point. It's a good point. Let me I'm just gonna scoot.
Oh, that's right. You're gonna be on
onto
like
Blue
Mr.
Sky.
Mr. something.
I want to get the link correct this time, so I don't have to repeat it 5 times. Tomorrow, on Tuesday, May the 13th, myself, the Story Motors podcast host, and Foxy Steve will be coming together to record a live episode of the Story Motors podcast. It will be on twitch.tv/Mr. Hawks 182
right. Hawk to a girl.
at 8 p.m. Mountain Time. So come and hang out. I'm going to have all sorts of fun and games prepared for that particular episode of the show.
And finally, non-patrons have access now to episode 3 of Rafter Dark. And I believe that's the Drugs, Dream, and Dream House stuff, right? Or was that
The what?
episode 2? Like Joel's Drugs, Dream,
the
and,
one, right?
and
Yeah,
Dream
that's
House.
it.
That was 3? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, that's now available to the world for everybody to go and listen to. So check out Rafter Dark 3 and Rafter Dark 4 if you're a subscriber. And you can find... God, why do I have JD Vance on the brain? What's the... Todd Howard. Find Todd Howard. And
God damn it. Gears of War 4 ruined our brains.
Damn it. All right, that's it, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, here's our usual sign-off. So, how long you worked here? Oh, great. What's your favorite donut? Yeah, can I get a dozen of those donuts? That's JD Vance talking to the donut lady at the shop.
Yeah. Esteemed protagonist of Gears of War 4.
I cut you off. Cut you off.